course, on yesterday, the market did close down. You could say because the markets also closed on Monday for Martin Luther King, that some of the traders were clearing out their books.
Yeah, generally this time of year, 3-day weekends. When you see a down close for the week, some short-term traders will square their books and reassess the following week. But generally speaking, the S&P down 1.5%. Small caps, though, were up on the week, and the Nasdaq took the brunt of the selling, down a little bit more than 2%. So some profit taking, and I think what triggered it, Dave, on Friday morning, was the reaction of the market to the bank reports. We had 3 banks reports: J.P. Morgan, Citicorp, and Wells Fargo. All 3 beat on the earnings line. Citi and Wells missed on the revenue line. J.P. Morgan lowered their reserves, which is a positive, yet the stocks all traded off despite beating on the earnings line.
And, we look at that because, financials certainly has a place in people's portfolios, especially as the 10-year Treasury continues to go up. And explain to our listeners why that's important.
Well, it's important because in the context of the yield curve. So short-term rates, we know the Fed is pinning them close to zero. But over the last several months, the yield on the 10-year has continued to rise. And what that's called is a steepening yield curve. And that historically is very good for bank profitability because they lend short, they borrow short and lend long, and they make that spread called the net interest margin. So that's a supportive factor for bank fundamentals. But again, the reason I think they sold off was they simply had gone up a lot in front of the good quarters, and that they were just ripe for profit taking. I think that kind of thinking permeated the market on Friday.
Now, remember, the night before that, Thursday night, Mr. Biden came out with a stimulus package, which was just enormous, and maybe the market was digesting that as well. But, it's a big number.
It is $1.9 trillion. If I recall, it was only a month ago we passed a $900 billion stimulus package. And many people say what he's trying to do is address that K-shaped recovery we've talked about any number of times, to essentially address industry verticals and people that have been harmed by the coronavirus and subsequent shutdown. So it's an effort to build a bridge. There's more to it than just stimulus checks.
Yeah, that's right. There was another part of that $2,000 stimulus check was included in there. But, as you have pointed out, it's a 50-50 Senate, and therefore, how are they going to get it through? There's probably a couple of ways to do it. I don't want to get too wonky here, but budget reconciliation is part of it. But part of this is not anything to do with the budget.
No, it's more about state and local government aid, education money, and the rest. It will be hard to get 60 votes. The Republicans were against it in December, and I'm sure that they will remain against it. So some negotiations are going to have to take place. But in the meantime, he's also raised awareness, and obviously his first emphasis is going to be attack the virus, expand our ability to roll out the vaccine so that we can get as many people inoculated as quickly as possible, which is probably the best way to beat it.
And one more piece of news that certainly you and I were talking about on Friday morning is the fact the Moderna CEO came out and said, even if we get inoculated as a community, we may have to do it again the following year. Now, of course, this is a pharmaceutical guy, the CEO of a pharmaceutical company, saying we're going to have to continue to do this. But this was the conversation, and people thought maybe the work from home trade is still have some legs.
That's certainly possible. I'm not an epidemiologist, but I have heard that any number of, we've heard about variant strains of the virus, whether the current vaccines will work. I, again, don't know the facts on this, but they say it does. But generally speaking, we need to get the vaccines out there so that people can resume their normal lives.
Well, we get a different flu vaccine every year.
That's right. And so that maybe that happens. And then the last piece of negative, because we put a positive and negative together in the morning, and 20,000 troops, 4 times what there is overseas, are going to be in Washington, D.C., and they're going to close down the mall, and no one's going to be anywhere near that. So that has gotten people unnerved. So there's a lot of positive and negative, and that's the reason why navigating your way through this is very, very important in times like this.